Subscribe to Storylab for more stories. Now let's begin this one. Chapter 1. The Quiet Life. Isaac Garner had learned to find peace in the small things. After 18 years as a Navy SEAL, 12 deployments across 3 continents, operations he'd never speak about, and scars that mapped a career of calculated violence, he'd earned his quiet life in Portland, Oregon. He ran a small security consulting firm, mostly teaching corporate executives about threat assessment. Nothing like the old days. These days, his biggest thrill was his Tuesday morning runs along the Willamette River and Sunday dinners with his daughter. Evelyn Garner had been 7 when Isaac retired from active duty. Now 23, she'd grown into a brilliant young woman studying biochemistry at Oregon Health and Science University. She had her mother's sharp mind. Isaac's late wife, Alicia, had died from cancer 6 years ago, and Isaac's stubborn determination. "Dad, I want you to meet someone," Evelyn had said 3 months ago over their weekly dinner at Jake's Famous Crawfish. Isaac had looked up from his Dungeness crab. "Someone. His name's Theodore Dixon. We met at a tech symposium. He's different." She'd smiled in that way that made Isaac's protective instincts flare. "He's picking me up after dinner. Just coffee, okay?" "No interrogations." Isaac had agreed, though his training never truly shut off. When Theodore arrived in a Porsche 911 GT3, Isaac noted everything. The expensive watch, the confident handshake that tried too hard, the way his eyes didn't quite match his smile. Theodore Dixon was 26, handsome in that manufactured way money could buy, and worked in venture capital, which Isaac quickly learned meant managing a small portion of his father's tech empire. Stuart Dixon, the father, had built Apex Dynamics into a Silicon Valley giant worth $8 billion, specializing in AI-driven security systems. The irony wasn't lost on Isaac. Over the following months, Isaac watched his daughter fall for Theodore. She glowed when she talked about him. But Isaac also noticed the small things. How Theodore checked his phone constantly during their dinners together. How he spoke over Evelyn when explaining tech concepts. How his charm seemed practiced rather than genuine. "Dad, you're being paranoid," Evelyn had said last month when Isaac gently voiced concerns. "Not every guy is running a psyop. Theodore's generous, ambitious, and he treats me well." Isaac had backed off. He'd learned in the teams that you couldn't always see the threat before it struck. Sometimes you had to trust your team, and Evelyn was smart enough to make her own choices. He'd been wrong to wait. Chapter 2. Shattered. The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Thursday in October. "Mr. Garner, this is Dr. Patel from OHSU Emergency. Your daughter Evelyn was brought in an hour ago. You need to come immediately." Isaac was dressed and in his truck within 90 seconds, running every red light between his Pearl District condo and the hospital. His mind cataloged possibilities: car accident, random assault, medical emergency. But his gut told him something else entirely. Dr. Patel met him in the ER waiting room, her face professionally composed, but her eyes showing the anger underneath. "Mr. Garner, Evelyn is stable, but suffered significant injuries. Her jaw is fractured in 2 places, 3 broken ribs, severe contusions across her face and torso, and a concussion." The words hit Isaac like incoming fire. "What happened?" "She said her boyfriend did this. Theodore Dixon." Dr. Patel's voice dropped. "The injuries are consistent with sustained assault. Multiple impact points. He beat her, Mr. Garner." Isaac's hands clenched until his knuckles went white. 20 years of training in controlled violence screamed through his nervous system, but he forced himself to breathe. "Where is she?" Evelyn looked small in the hospital bed, her face swollen and discolored, her jaw wired shut. When she saw Isaac, tears streamed down her cheeks. He took her hand carefully, his own hands trembling with barely contained rage. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here." She couldn't speak, but she didn't need to. The story came from the police report. Theodore had picked her up for dinner at his penthouse in downtown Portland. They'd argued about her, wanting to spend Thanksgiving with Isaac instead of flying to the Dixon family compound in Palo Alto. Theodore had accused her of not being committed enough to their relationship. Then he'd hit her. When she tried to leave, he'd hit her again and again. A neighbor had heard screaming and called 911. By the time police arrived, Theodore had fled, and Evelyn was barely conscious. Officer Lucas Brock, a 15-year veteran, pulled Isaac aside. "We've issued a warrant for Theodore Dixon's arrest. Problem is, he's not at his penthouse, his office, or any known location. We think he ran to California." His father, Isaac, said quietly, "Yeah, and that's where it gets complicated. Stuart Dixon has an army of lawyers. We're coordinating with California authorities, but..." Brock shook his head. "Rich people have different rules, Mr. Garner. I'm sorry." Isaac sat with Evelyn until dawn, watching her sleep, her broken face a testament to his failure to protect her. He'd eliminated terrorist cells, rescued hostages from warlords, survived firefights in 3 different countries, and he hadn't been there when his daughter needed him most. His phone buzzed at 6:15 a.m. Unknown number. California, area code. Isaac stepped into the hallway and answered. "Mr. Garner, my name is Stuart Dixon." The voice was smooth, practiced, the tone of a man accustomed to solving problems with phone calls. "I understand there was an unfortunate incident between your daughter and my son." Unfortunate incident? Isaac's voice was deadly calm. "Your son shattered my daughter's jaw. Theodore has anger management issues. We're aware of them. He's in treatment now." Stuart's tone didn't change, as if discussing a software glitch. "Your daughter triggered an episode. These things happen in relationships. But I'm a reasonable man, Mr. Garner. I'm prepared to offer you $2 million to resolve this matter privately. Medical expenses, pain, and suffering, in your discretion." Isaac's jaw clenched so hard he felt his teeth grind. "My discretion. The charges go away. Evelyn gets the best care money can buy. You both move on. Nobody needs the media circus." Stuart paused. "I'm texting you wire transfer information. Think about your daughter's future, Mr. Garner. A prolonged legal battle helps no one." Isaac hung up. He stood in the hospital corridor, fluorescent lights humming overhead, and made a decision. The system wouldn't deliver justice. Lawyers would delay. Money would corrupt. Theodore Dixon would walk free, and somewhere down the line, he'd hurt another woman. But Isaac Garner wasn't the system. He was a weapon, and weapons had one purpose. Chapter 3. Reconnaissance. Isaac spent the next week being the perfect grieving father. He stayed with Evelyn, coordinated her medical care, spoke politely with detectives, and appeared to consider Stuart Dixon's offer when the man's lawyers called twice more. But at night, in his condo, Isaac began his real work. His first call was to Harry Loomis, a former SEAL Team 6 operator who now ran a private intelligence firm in Seattle. They'd served together in Afghanistan, and Harry owed Isaac his life after a mission in Kandahar went sideways. "I need everything on Stuart Dixon and his son Theodore," Isaac said. "Financial records, property layouts, security details, patterns of life. Everything." Harry was quiet for a moment. "This is about your daughter." "Yes." "The bastard who put her in the hospital." "Yes." "Say no more. I'll have a preliminary report in 48 hours. Harry paused. "Isaac, if you need me for anything else, I'm there. I'll let you know." The report Harry delivered was comprehensive. Stuart Dixon had built Apex Dynamics from a small startup into a tech empire through ruthless business practices and strategic acquisitions. 3 former partners had sued him for fraud, all settled quietly with NDAs. 2 female employees had filed harassment complaints that disappeared into sealed settlements. Theodore was worse. The youngest of Stuart's 3 children, Theodore had been expelled from Stanford for assaulting another student. Charges dropped after a generous donation. He'd totaled 3 luxury cars and DUI crashes, each incident buried by lawyers. And there was a sealed juvenile record from when Theodore was 17 involving a girl at his prep school. This wasn't an anger management issue. This was a pattern, a protected pattern. Isaac's second call was to Miguel Daly, a tech specialist he'd worked with during private security contracts. Miguel could hack anything, and his services weren't cheap. But Isaac had savings, and nothing mattered more than this. "I need schematics for a property in Palo Alto," Isaac said, sending Miguel the address of the Dixon family compound. Security systems, camera placements, staff schedules, everything. Miguel whistled when he pulled up the property records. This place is a fortress. 20-person private security team, ex-Secret Service guys. Biometric locks, thermal sensors, the works. Stuart Dixon doesn't trust his own AI security systems, apparently. Can you get me inside? Physically? That's not my department. But I can get you blueprints, guard rotations, and a 12-hour window when security's lightest. They rotate shifts every Thursday night between 2 and 4 a.m. Only 15 guys on duty instead of 20. Send me everything. Isaac's third call was the hardest. Shane Mercer had been his team leader in the SEALs, a man who'd taught Isaac that sometimes justice existed outside the law. Shane had retired to Montana and ran a survival training school, but Isaac knew Shane still had connections to the darker corners of the private security world. "You're planning something stupid," Shane said after Isaac explained the situation. "I'm planning something necessary." "Isaac, listen to me. You go after a billionaire like Stuart Dixon. Even if you succeed, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. Is that what Evelyn needs? Her father in a cell? What she needs is to know that the man who hurt her faced consequences. Real consequences, not a settlement check." Isaac's voice was steel. "I've spent 18 years using violence in service of politics and policy. Just once, I want to use it for something that actually matters." Shane sighed. "You need backup?" "No. This is my fight." "Wrong answer. You go in alone, you might not come out. I know 2 guys, solid operators, who freelance for the right price. They'll watch your 6, no questions asked." Isaac considered it. He'd planned to do this solo, to bear the risk alone. But Shane was right. Hubris got operators killed. "Send me their information." By week's end, Isaac had a complete picture. The Dixon compound sat on 15 acres in Palo Alto's most exclusive neighborhood. The main house was 25,000 square feet, with Stuart occupying the west wing. Theodore lived in the east wing when he wasn't at his Portland penthouse. And according to Harry's surveillance, Theodore had returned to Palo Alto the night after the assault. The security team was ex-military, well-trained, but complacent. They'd never faced a real threat. The compound security systems were state-of-the-art, but predictable. Motion sensors with dead zones, cameras with blind spots, and guards who followed routines. Isaac spent 3 days studying the materials, memorizing layouts, timing guard rotations, identifying entry and exit points. He flew to Palo Alto under a false name and conducted physical surveillance, watching the compound from neighboring properties, noting patterns. Stuart Dixon left for work at 6 a.m. every morning, returned at 7 p.m. Theodore rarely left the compound, probably on his lawyer's advice. The security team changed shifts like clockwork. On the 10th day after Evelyn's assault, Isaac received a certified letter from Dixon's attorneys. It was a final offer, $3 million, signed NDA, all criminal charges dropped. Evelyn would receive lifelong medical coverage for any related injuries. Isaac burned the letter in his fireplace. That night, he called Evelyn. Her jaw was healing, though she still couldn't speak clearly. "Dad, don't do anything stupid," she managed through the pain. "I won't," Isaac lied. "I love you, sweetheart." "Love you too." After hanging up, Isaac packed his gear, dark tactical clothing, climbing equipment, zip ties, a taser, and a Sig Sauer P226, the same sidearm he'd carried in the teams. He wasn't planning to kill anyone. Death was too easy. He wanted them to understand fear. Chapter 4. Ghost in the Machine. Isaac arrived in Palo Alto on a Wednesday evening, checking into a cheap motel under his false identity. Shane's 2 operators, Nicholas Dorsey and Will Floyd, both former Delta Force, met him at a storage unit on the outskirts of town. Nicholas was built like a linebacker, quiet and methodical. Will was leaner, faster, with the sharp eyes of a sniper. Both men had worked off-the-books contracts in Syria and Yemen. They didn't ask questions about morality. They'd seen enough to know the world wasn't black and white. "We're not here to kill anyone," Isaac briefed them. "We're here to send a message." "What kind of message?" Nicholas asked. "The kind that makes a billionaire realize his money can't buy safety. The kind that makes his son understand actions have consequences." Will nodded. "We've done worse for worse reasons." "What's the play?" Isaac spread the compound schematics across a makeshift table. Miguel's hacked into their security system. At 2:30 a.m. tomorrow, he'll create a rolling blackout. Lights and cameras go down in sequence, making it look like a power grid fluctuation. It'll last 12 minutes. Security will investigate, but they'll be looking outward for external threats. While we go in, Nicholas finished. Exactly. There's a blind spot on the northwest corner where the property backs onto a nature preserve. We scale the wall there, move through the gardens to the main house. Miguel says Stuart's bedroom is on the second floor, west wing. Theodore's is east wing, ground floor. 20 guards, Will said. Even with 15 on rotation, that's a lot of firepower. We don't engage unless necessary. Tasers and non-lethal takedowns. The goal is to get in, deliver the message, and get out before they know what hit them. Nicholas raised an eyebrow. You want a taser, 20x Secret Service guys? I want them unconscious, not dead. Can you do it? Both men grinned. Hell yes, Will said. They spent the rest of the night rehearsing. Isaac had them memorize the layout, practice movement patterns, coordinate timing down to the second. By midnight, they were ready. At 1:45 a.m. Thursday, they drove to a staging point half a mile from the compound. Isaac felt the familiar pre-mission calm settle over him. The same focus he'd carried through 100 operations. This wasn't PTSD or revenge psychosis. This was clarity. Comms check. Isaac whispered into his throat mic. Floyd, good copy. Dorsey, good copy. Miguel, you there? I'm in their system. Miguel's voice crackled through their earpieces. You've got 12 minutes started now. Rolling blackout initiated. The compound's exterior lights flickered and died in sequence, darkness spreading like a wave. Inside, Isaac knew security monitors were going haywire, guards scrambling to assess the malfunction. Move. They crossed the half mile in 7 minutes, using night vision to navigate the darkness. The compound's wall was 12 feet of reinforced concrete topped with sensors that were currently offline. Nicholas boosted Will up first, who secured a rope. Isaac followed, moving with practiced silence. On the other side, they dropped in a landscape gardens that probably cost more than most people's houses. 2 guards, northeast corner, Will whispered, spotting thermal signatures through his scope. Investigating the blackout. Go around. They moved like shadows through ornamental trees and sculptured hedges. Isaac's heart rate stayed steady at 60 beats per minute. Another skill from the teams, controlling physiology under stress. The main house loomed ahead, a monument to wealth and excess. Through ground floor windows, Isaac saw movement, a guard checking circuit breakers. For minutes left, Miguel updated. Side entrance, west side, Isaac directed. Should be unlocked according to staff interviews. The door opened silently. They were inside. The interior was exactly as the blueprints showed. Marble floors, vaulted ceilings, abstract art worth millions. Isaac led them through a sitting room, past a kitchen bigger than his entire condo, toward the main staircase. That's when they heard voices. Probably just the grid again. Cal Powers being unreliable. 2 guards rounded the corner, flashlights sweeping. Isaac didn't hesitate. He moved like liquid, closing the distance before the first guard could react. Taser to the neck, 50,000 volts, the man dropped instantly. Nicholas took the second guard with a chokehold, unconscious in 4 seconds. Drag them into the closet, Isaac ordered. 2 minutes. They moved faster now, up the staircase to the second floor. Will stayed at the landing as rear security while Isaac and Nicholas approached Stuart Dixon's bedroom suite. Isaac tested the door handle. Unlocked. Arrogant. Inside, Stuart Dixon slept in a king-size bed beneath Egyptian cotton sheets, probably worth more than a month of Isaac's consulting fees. The man was 62, silver-haired, with the comfortable face of someone who'd never faced real consequences. Isaac crossed the room and clamped a hand over Stuart's mouth. The billionaire's eyes snapped open, widening in terror as he saw the masked figure above him. Make a sound and you die, Isaac whispered. Nod if you understand. Stuart nodded frantically. Isaac zip-tied his hands behind his back, then dragged him to a chair near the window. Stuart was breathing hard, his expensive pajamas dark with sweat. "Do you know who I am?" Isaac asked. Stuart shook his head. "I'm Isaac Garner, Evelyn's father, the man whose daughter your son beat until her jaw broke." Isaac leaned in close. "You called me, offered me $2 million to disappear. Remember?" Recognition and fear warred on Stuart's face. "Here's the thing about money, Mr. Dixon. It could buy a lot. Lawyers, silence, protection. But it can't buy safety. Not for me." Isaac pulled out his phone, showing Stuart photos of the compound security team. "I've been watching you for 10 days. I know your routines, your security, your weaknesses. Tonight I walked past 20 armed guards like they weren't even here. What do you want?" Stuart managed, his voice cracking. "I want you to understand that you're not untouchable. I want you to know that every night when you close your eyes, I could be there. Every time you hear a noise, wonder if it's me. Every shadow, every stranger. It could be the father of a girl your son destroyed." Isaac stood. "Your son Theodore is going to face justice. Real justice. If your lawyers make the charges disappear, I come back. If he walks free, I come back. If he ever hurts another woman, I come back. And next time, I won't be this polite." 30 seconds. Miguel's voice crackled. "Light's coming back." Isaac moved to the door, then paused. "One more thing. You have 2 other children, don't you? A daughter at Princeton, a son running your European division. Think about what kind of man Theodore is. Think about whether protecting him is worth losing them too. Because that's where this path leads, Mr. Dixon. You protect a monster, you become one." Isaac slipped out as the lights began to flicker back to life. He met Nicholas and Will at the staircase, and they moved through the house like ghosts, retracing their entry path. Behind them, Stuart Dixon sat cable-tied to his chair, staring at the empty doorway, understanding for the first time in his life that there were things his money couldn't fix. They were over the wall and gone before the security team realized anything was wrong. Chapter 5. Unraveling. The news hit the tech world like a bomb. Apex Dynamics CEO Stuart Dixon's home infiltrated by unknown assailants screamed the headline in TechCrunch. The story was carefully sanitized. No mention of Theodore or the assault, just vague references to a security breach and no injuries reported. But Isaac knew the truth was eating Stuart alive. Harry Loomis sent updates. Stuart had tripled his security team, installed additional biometric scanners, and was sleeping in a panic room. The man was terrified. More importantly, Theodore's lawyers had gone quiet. Officer Lucas Brock called Isaac on Sunday. "Something weird's happening with the Dixon case." Their legal team asked for a meeting with the DA. "They're not fighting the charges anymore." What does that mean? It means Theodore Dixon might actually face a courtroom. First time I've seen this with their family. Brock sounded suspicious. Any idea why they'd changed strategy? None. Isaac lied smoothly. Maybe they realized they couldn't win. Yeah, maybe. But Isaac's plan hit an unexpected snag 3 days later when Harry called with disturbing news. Stuart's not backing down on everything. He's hired a firm called Apex Security Solutions. No relation to his company, different outfit. They're ex-Mossad, ex-CIA types. Best manhunters money can buy. Isaac's blood went cold. He's looking for me. He's looking for whoever broke into his house. And Isaac, these guys are good. They're already working the case, interviewing staff, pulling security footage from nearby businesses, tracking down anyone with motive and capability. How long before they connected to me? Hard to say. You used a false identity for travel, right? No digital footprint. Clean as I could make it. Then you've got time, but not much. These guys will start with anyone who has a grudge against Stuart or Theodore. That list includes you. Isaac thanked Harry and hung up. He'd expected retaliation, but not this level of sophistication. Stuart was fighting back, using his resources to hunt the ghost who'd invaded his sanctuary. Isaac needed to move faster. His next step was risky, but necessary. He called Shane Mercer again. "I need to disappear someone," Isaac said. "Disappear or disappear?" "Disappear. As in, make them unavailable for a few weeks. Hold them somewhere secure. No harm, just absence." Shane was quiet. "You're talking about kidnapping. I'm talking about removing a piece from the board before it can be used against me." "Who?" Theodore Dixon. Shane swore colorfully. Isaac, you've already poked the bear. Now you want to steal its cub? Theodore's the key. As long as he's walking free, Stewart will use every resource to protect him. But if Theodore disappears, Stewart has to choose. Keep protecting a ghost, or cut his losses. And you think he'll cut his losses? I think Stewart Dixon is a businessman first, a father second. If Theodore becomes a liability instead of an asset, Stewart will sacrifice him to protect his empire. Shane considered this. You need a clean snatch. No witnesses, no trail. And somewhere to hold him that can't be traced back to you. I have ideas. I need logistics. I'll make some calls. But Isaac, this is crossing a line even I'm uncomfortable with. The line was crossed when Theodore shattered Evelyn's jaw. I'm just evening the score. 2 days later, Shane provided coordinates to a remote property in rural Oregon, an old hunting cabin on 50 acres, owned by a shell corporation that couldn't be traced. Nicholas and Will, still in California on Isaac's payroll, confirmed Theodore's patterns of life. The younger Dixon rarely left the compound, but he had a weekly appointment with his therapist in Palo Alto every Thursday at 2 p.m. Therapist drives a Tesla, parks in a private garage beneath his office building, Nicholas reported. Minimal security. Theodore goes alone, probably thinks it makes him look vulnerable and sympathetic for the trial. How long is the session? 50 minutes. Like clockwork. Isaac flew back to California on Wednesday, meeting Nicholas and Will at a safe house. The plan was surgical. Intercept Theodore at the parking garage, subdue him, transfer him to a rental van, drive to Oregon. Simple in theory, catastrophic if anything went wrong. You sure about this? Will asked as they prepared. Kidnapping's a federal offense. They'll throw everything at finding him. Let them look. By the time they realize what happened, it'll be too late. Thursday arrived with clear skies. Isaac positioned himself in the parking garage with a stolen key card, while Nicholas and Will waited in the van on the street level. At 1:58 p.m., Theodore's Porsche descended the ramp. Isaac's heart rate stayed steady. This was just another operation. Theodore parked in his reserved spot and climbed out, checking his phone. He was dressed casually, expensive jeans, designer hoodie, and looked nothing like a man who'd beaten a woman unconscious 2 weeks ago. He looked normal. Forgettable. That was the danger, Isaac thought. Monsters rarely looked like monsters. Isaac approached from behind, taser ready. Theodore Dixon? Theodore turned confused. Ooh, 50,000 volts dropped him like a sack of concrete. Isaac caught him before he hit the ground, dragging him toward the emergency exit. Nicholas was there with the van, rear doors open. They had Theodore zip-tied and blindfolded in 30 seconds, the van rolling out of the garage in 60. By the time the therapist receptionist wondered why Theodore was late, they were on Highway 101 heading north. Theodore woke up somewhere near Redding, groggy and terrified. Where am I? Who are you? My father will. Your father can't help you, Isaac said calmly. Nobody can help you right now. You're going to sit quietly until we reach our destination. If you cooperate, you'll be fine. If you don't, this gets unpleasant. Theodore tried to yell. Nicholas calmly placed duct tape over his mouth. They drove through the night, reaching the Oregon cabin at dawn. The property was perfect. Isolated, no neighbors for miles, no cell service. Isaac had stocked it with supplies for a 2-week stay. They secured Theodore in the cabin's basement, a root cellar that had been converted into a reinforced storage room. Water, food, a cot, but no communication devices and no way out. What now? Nicholas asked after they locked Theodore in. Now we wait, Isaac said, and we let Stewart Dixon make a choice. Chapter 6, The Trade. The disappearance of Theodore Dixon became national news within hours. Tech Air missing after therapy session dominated headlines. The FBI got involved. Stewart Dixon appeared on camera, tearful and desperate, offering a $10 million reward for information. It was a masterful performance. Isaac almost believed the man actually cared about his son. Isaac waited 3 days, letting the pressure build, before making contact. He used a burner phone routed through multiple VPNs to call Stewart's private number, the same number that had offered him $2 million to disappear. I have your son, Isaac said without preamble. Silence. Then, Garner. He's alive and unharmed. Whether he stays that way depends on you. The FBI is looking for him. Every law enforcement agency in California won't find him. I learned how to make people disappear from the best in the world. Your son is in a place nobody will think to look, and he'll stay there until we reach an agreement. Stewart's voice turned cold. What do you want? Money. I want justice. Real justice. Not the kind your lawyers can buy. Theodore faces trial for what he did to Evelyn. He pleads guilty. He serves real prison time. And you step back and let the system work. You're insane. I'll never. Let me be clear, Mr. Dixon. I don't want to hurt Theodore. I'm not like him. But I will keep him until you agree. And every day you delay is another day he sits in a basement wondering if anyone's coming for him. Isaac paused. You built an empire on ruthless decisions. Make one now. Sacrifice the son who's a liability, or lose everything trying to save him. He's my son, then be a better father than you've been. Teach him actions have consequences. Let him face what he did instead of buying his way out. Or accept that you raised a monster and monsters eventually destroy everything around them. Isaac hung up. The next 24 hours were tense. Isaac stayed at the cabin with Theodore, while Nicholas and Will rotated shifts watching for any approach. Theodore spent most of his time raging or crying, occasionally trying to negotiate. My father will give you whatever you want, Theodore said through the basement door. 20 million, 50 million, a new identity, anything. I don't want money, Isaac replied. I want you to understand what you did. It was an accident. Evelyn and I argued. Things got heated. You broke her jaw in 2 places. You fractured her ribs. You beat her until she couldn't stand. Isaac's voice was flat. That's not an accident, Theodore. That's violence. Deliberate, sustained violence against someone smaller and weaker than you. She provoked me. And there it is. The same thing your father said. She triggered you. She provoked you. Never your responsibility. Never your fault. Isaac shook his head, though Theodore couldn't see him. You're 26 years old. You've hurt people your entire life and never faced consequences because daddy's money made problems disappear. That ends now. Theodore went quiet. On the 4th day of Theodore's captivity, Stewart made his choice. A press conference was called. Stewart Dixon stood before cameras looking haggard and defeated. My son Theodore has been struggling with behavioral issues for years. Issues I failed to address properly. In light of recent events and ongoing legal matters, I'm announcing that Theodore will no longer fight the charges against him in Portland. We will cooperate fully with authorities, and Theodore will accept responsibility for his actions. The reporter questions were immediate and loud, but Stewart silenced them with a raised hand. Additionally, I'm establishing a $10 million foundation for domestic violence prevention and victim support. It's named for Evelyn Garner, the young woman my son harmed. No amount of money can undo what happened, but perhaps we can prevent future tragedies. It was a masterclass in public relations, Stewart managing to look sympathetic while throwing Theodore under the bus. But Isaac didn't care about optics. The result was what mattered. Harry Loomis called an hour later. Did you see? I saw. Theodore's lawyers just filed paperwork with the Portland DA. They're negotiating a plea deal. Looks like Theodore will actually serve time. How much? Best case for them? 5 years with possibility of parole in 3. Worst case? 8 to 10. Either way, he's going to prison. Isaac felt something unclench in his chest. Good. What about the son? You going to return him now? Isaac looked at the basement door. Theodore had been quiet for hours, probably processing what his father's statement meant, that he'd been abandoned, sacrificed to protect the family empire. Soon, Isaac said, I want to make sure the deal sticks first. And if it doesn't, then Theodore and I will have a longer conversation about consequences. But the deal held. Over the next 48 hours, Theodore's legal team finalized a plea agreement. Guilty to aggravated assault, mandatory anger management and therapy, 5 years in Oregon State Correctional Institution, eligible for parole in 3. Not perfect, but real, tangible. Justice, or as close to it as the system allowed. On the 6th day of Theodore's captivity, Isaac opened the basement door. Theodore looked up, his expensive clothes rumpled, his face unshaven, his eyes hollowed by fear and realization. Are you going to kill me? No, Isaac said. I'm going to let you go. But first, I want you to listen. He sat on the stairs, just out of Theodore's reach. You're going to prison. 3 years minimum, maybe more. You'll be surrounded by men who hate abusers, who hate rich kids who think they're untouchable. It's going to be hell. But here's the thing, Theodore. It's also your last chance. Last chance for what? To become someone different, someone better. Right now, you're a spoiled child who never learned that other people matter. You hurt Evelyn because you could, because you'd never been stopped before. Prison will stop you. It'll break you down, and maybe you'll rebuild into something that isn't a monster. Theodore looked away. My father abandoned me. No, your father finally did what he should have done years ago. Let you face consequences. That's not abandonment. That's being a parent. Isaac stood. You have a choice now. You can spend these years blaming everyone else. Evelyn, me, your father, the system. Or you can accept what you did and change. The choice is yours. Isaac left Theodore in the basement and made one final call. This is Isaac Garner. Theodore Dixon will be found tomorrow morning at the rest stop on I-5, mile marker 178, restrained but unharmed. Consider this the end of our arrangement. Then he, Nicholas, and will clean the cabin of any trace they'd been there, loaded into the van, and drove Theodore, blindfolded and silent, to the designated drop point. They left him zip-tied to a bench with a note pinned to his shirt. Actions have consequences. Remember that. By the time the California Highway Patrol found Theodore 6 hours later, Isaac was back in Portland, sitting beside Evelyn's hospital bed while she practiced speaking through her wired jaw. Dad, she managed. You okay? I'm fine, sweetheart. Everything's fine. And for the first time in weeks, he meant it. Chapter 7. The Trial. 3 months later, Isaac sat in the Multnomah County Courthouse watching Theodore Dixon stand before Judge Eleanor Ackerman. The courtroom was packed with media, victims' advocates, and curious onlookers drawn by the rare sight of a wealthy defendant actually facing consequences. Evelyn sat beside Isaac, her jaw healed, but the scars still visible along her jawline. Permanent reminders that would fade, but never fully disappear. She'd insisted on being here, on facing the man who'd hurt her. All rise, the bailiff announced. Judge Ackerman was a no-nonsense jurist with 30 years on the bench and zero patience for privilege. She reviewed the plea agreement with sharp eyes before addressing Theodore. Mr. Dixon, you've agreed to plead guilty to 1 count of aggravated assault in the 2nd degree. Do you understand the terms of this agreement? Theodore, dressed in a modest suit rather than his usual designer wear, nodded. Yes, Your Honor. And you understand that by pleading guilty, you're admitting you intentionally and knowingly caused serious physical injury to Evelyn Garner? A pause. Isaac saw Theodore's jaw clench, saw the war between his ego and his survival instinct. Finally, yes, Your Honor. Before I accept this plea, I want to hear from Ms. Garner. The victim has a right to address the court. Evelyn stood, her hands trembling slightly. Isaac wanted to reach out to protect her from this moment, but he knew she needed to do this herself. Theodore, Evelyn began, her voice stronger than Isaac expected. You told me you loved me. You said I was special, different from other girls you dated. But the first time I disagreed with you, really disagreed, about something that mattered to me, you beat me unconscious. Theodore stared at the floor. I want you to know something. I'm going to be okay. My jaw healed. The nightmares are getting better. I'm finishing my degree, and I'm going to have an amazing life. Evelyn's voice hardened. But there's a girl somewhere, maybe in your future or someone else's, who won't be okay, who won't survive. And I pray that during your time in prison, you figure out why you're broken. Because you are broken, Theodore. Rich and educated and handsome, and absolutely broken inside. She sat down, and Isaac squeezed her hand. Judge Ackerman studied Theodore for a long moment. Mr. Dixon, I've read your psychological evaluations. Your lawyers argue you have impulse control issues stemming from untreated childhood trauma. I'm sympathetic to mental health challenges, but I'm also aware that you've had every advantage in life. Therapy, resources, opportunities, and you've consistently chosen violence. She paused. I'm accepting the plea agreement, but I want you to understand something. The state is recommending 5 years. I could give you 8. I'm going with 5 because Ms. Garner asked for mercy, not because you deserve it. You'll serve this time at Oregon State Correctional, and you'll participate in every anger management and violence prevention program they offer. If I hear you've caused problems, I'll ensure you serve every day of your sentence. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Theodore whispered. Then it's the judgment of this court that you're sentenced to 5 years imprisonment, eligible for parole in 3 pending good behavior and completion of mandated programs. The gavel fell. We're adjourned. Bailiffs led Theodore away. He glanced back once, his eyes finding Isaac's across the courtroom. There was no recognition. Theodore still didn't know Isaac was the ghost who'd invaded his father's home, who'd held him in that basement, who'd orchestrated his downfall. That was fine. Isaac didn't need credit. He needed justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Evelyn had prepared a brief statement with her lawyer's help. I'm grateful to the justice system for holding Theodore accountable. I hope other victims know they can come forward, that they can be heard. Thank you. Isaac stood behind her, silent and proud, as cameras flashed and questions flew. Later, at a quiet dinner at Jake's Famous Crawfish, their traditional spot, Evelyn picked at her food and finally asked the question Isaac knew was coming. Dad, did you do something? What do you mean? Stuart Dixon's house was broken into. Theodore disappeared for a week. Then suddenly all their lawyers backed off and the plea deal happened. She looked at him directly. That's a lot of coincidences. Isaac met her eyes. Sometimes justice needs a push. Sometimes the system works, but only if someone makes it work. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you, sweetheart. Evelyn was quiet, processing. Then, I don't want to know the details. But thank you. For being you. Always. They finished dinner talking about her upcoming semester, about her research in neuroplasticity, about everything except the darkness that had invaded their lives. Because that darkness was fading now, pushed back by the light of consequence and accountability. Justice, imperfect and hard-won, but justice nonetheless. Chapter 8, The Reckoning. 6 months into Theodore's prison sentence, Isaac received an unexpected visitor. Stuart Dixon appeared at Isaac's security consulting office on a rainy Portland afternoon, looking nothing like the polished billionaire who'd offered $2 million to make the problem disappear. He looked older, tired, diminished. I know it was you, Stuart said without preamble. Isaac's expression didn't change. I don't know what you're talking about. The break-in. Theodore's kidnapping. All of it. Stuart sat down uninvited. The security firm I hired spent 3 months investigating. They found traces, digital breadcrumbs that led nowhere, witnesses who saw nothing useful, evidence of professional military-grade tactics. But they all pointed to someone with elite training and a very specific motivation. Sounds like an expensive waste of time. They couldn't prove it was you. But I know. Call it a father's instinct. Stuart leaned forward. I want to understand why you didn't kill him. You had Theodore for 6 days. You could have made him disappear permanently. Why didn't you? Isaac considered the question. Because killing him would have made me like him. A man who solves problems with violence and never faces consequences. I wanted something harder than death. I wanted him to change. You think prison will change Theodore? I think it's his only chance. Your money insulated him from reality his entire life. Now reality is all he has. Maybe he'll learn. Maybe he won't. But at least he's getting the opportunity. Stuart was silent for a long moment. The foundation I created, the one in Evelyn's name, I want you to run it. Isaac laughed. You're not serious. I'm completely serious. $10 million for domestic violence prevention. You know firsthand what it costs, what victims need. You could actually make a difference. Or you're trying to buy my silence. I'm trying to do something right for the first time in years. Stuart's voice cracked slightly. Theodore's in prison. My daughter won't speak to me because I protected him for so long. My company's stock dropped 15% after the trial. I've lost almost everything that matters, and I deserve it. But maybe some good can come from this wreckage. Isaac studied the man before him. Stuart Dixon was a complicated villain. A father who'd loved his son enough to enable him, who'd built an empire on ruthless decisions, who'd finally made the right choice when it mattered most. "I'll think about it," Isaac said. "But if I do this, it's on my terms. Real help for real victims. No PR stunts. No tax write-offs masquerading as charity. Actual change. Whatever you need." Stewart left, and Isaac sat in his office watching rain streak the windows. He thought about the path that had led here, from Evelyn's hospital bed to a courtroom to this strange offer of redemption. He called Shane Mercer. "You're not going to believe this," Isaac said, explaining Stewart's proposal. Shane whistled. "The man you terrorized wants you to run his foundation?" "Apparently." "You gonna do it?" Isaac considered. "Maybe. If I can actually help people, why not? Turn something dark into something useful." "That's very evolved of you. Most guys that do what you did end up in therapy or jail." "Who says I won't end up in therapy?" Shane laughed. "Fair point. Hey, I've been meaning to ask. Any blowback from the whole Theodore situation?" "None. As far as anyone knows, he was grabbed by unknown assailants, held for ransom that was never paid, and released unharmed. FBI closed the case after 6 months of dead ends. And the home invasion at Stewart's place? Still unsolved. Turns out $8 billion can't buy competent security." Isaac smiled. "How are Nicholas and Will?" "They're good. Picked up a contract in South America. Send their regards." After hanging up, Isaac made a decision. He would take Stewart's offer, but only if Evelyn approved. This was her story as much as his, and her voice mattered most. That evening, he drove to her apartment near campus. She was in better spirits lately, focused on her research and slowly rebuilding her confidence. The physical scars were fading. The emotional ones would take longer. "Dad, what's wrong?" she asked when she saw his expression. Isaac explained Stewart's proposal. Evelyn listened quietly, processing. "You think he's genuine?" she asked finally. "I think he's broken and trying to fix something unfixable. But the money could do real good. Then do it. Make him pay for what Theodore did, just in a different way." Evelyn smiled slightly. "Besides, you're too restless to just run security consultations forever. You need a mission. Where did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." Isaac accepted Stewart's offer the next day, with conditions: complete operational control, transparent finances, and a board of directors that included domestic violence survivors. Stewart agreed to everything. The foundation launched 3 months later with a comprehensive program: emergency shelters, legal advocacy, therapy services, and most importantly, a rapid response team that could help victims escape dangerous situations before they escalated. Isaac threw himself into the work with the same intensity he'd brought to his SEAL career. He hired social workers, lawyers, and security specialists. He created protocols for identifying at-risk individuals and intervening early. And on the 1-year anniversary of Evelyn's assault, the foundation opened its first dedicated shelter in Portland, a secure facility that could house 20 women and children with on-site counseling, legal support, and job training. Evelyn cut the ribbon, her smile genuine despite the memories the date carried. "This is what healing looks like," she told the gathered crowd. "Not forgetting what happened, but transforming it into something that helps others. My father taught me that strength isn't just physical. It's emotional, it's moral, it's the choice to turn pain into purpose." Isaac watched from the back, pride overwhelming him. His daughter had survived and was thriving. Theodore was in prison, learning consequences. And Isaac had found a new mission that didn't involve violence, but would save lives nonetheless. Justice, he realized, wasn't always a single moment. Sometimes it was a process, messy, complicated, and ongoing, but worth every step. Chapter 9, Closure. 2.5 years after Theodore's sentencing, Isaac received a letter from Oregon State Correctional Institution. "Mr. Garner, my name is Theodore Dixon. You don't know me, but I know your daughter Evelyn. I'm the man who hurt her. I'm writing because my therapist suggested I attempt to make amends to the people I've harmed. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what I did. Not just the physical damage, but the trust one violated, the fear I created, the life I could have ended. Prison has been difficult. I've been hurt, humiliated, forced to face what I am without money or privilege to hide behind. I've been in therapy 3 times a week for 2 years. I've learned about my patterns, my entitlement, the way I was taught that my feelings mattered more than other people's safety. I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just asking you to know that I'm different than I was. I have 16 months left on my sentence. When I get out, I'm starting over. New name, new city, a life where I can't hide behind my father's money. I want to work with men like me, men who hurt women, and try to stop them before they destroy lives like I did. Please tell Evelyn I'm sorry. I know the words are meaningless given what I did, but they're true. She deserved better. She deserved safety and respect, and I gave her neither. I hope she's doing well. I hope she's happy. And I hope someday she can think of what happened without fear. Theodore. Isaac read the letter 3 times, looking for manipulation or self-pity. It was there subtly, but there was also something else, genuine remorse, maybe even growth. He showed it to Evelyn. She read it silently, tears streaming down her face. Do you think he means it? I think he's trying to mean it. Whether he succeeds is up to him. Should I respond? Only if you want to. You don't owe him anything, sweetheart. Not forgiveness, not acknowledgement, nothing. Evelyn thought for a long moment. Then she pulled out her laptop and began typing. Theodore, I received your letter. I appreciate you acknowledging what you did, but I want you to understand something. Your remorse doesn't erase my trauma. I still have nightmares. I still flinch when someone moves too quickly. I still carry scars that remind me daily of what you did. But I also believe people can change. I have to believe that, because otherwise the world is too dark. So I hope you're sincere. I hope you become someone different. I won't forgive you. Forgiveness isn't something I'm capable of giving right now. Maybe not ever. But I will say this. If you truly want to change, do it for the next woman. Do it for every woman who might cross your path. Become someone who makes the world safer instead of more dangerous. I'm doing well. I'm finishing my PhD in neuroscience, studying trauma recovery in the brain. Ironic, maybe, but meaningful. I'm using what happened to help others understand and heal from violence. I don't want to hear from you again, but I hope you succeed in becoming better. Not for me, for yourself, and for everyone else you might have hurt if you hadn't been stopped. Evelyn. She showed Isaac the response. He read it and felt something release in his chest, a tension he'd carried since that horrible night in hospital. You're stronger than I ever was, he said. I learned from you, Dad. You taught me that strength isn't about violence or revenge. It's about surviving and building something from the wreckage. The letter was sent. Theodore never responded, which was appropriate. For months later, Isaac received a call from Stuart Dixon. They spoke occasionally now about foundation business, their relationship professional and distant. Theodore's being released next week, Stuart said. I thought you should know. Are you going to be there? No. He asked me not to come. Said he needs to do this alone. Stuart sounded tired. He's changed his last name, got a job with a violence prevention nonprofit in Seattle. He's trying, Isaac. Good. That's all we can ask. I wanted to thank you. For what? For not killing him. For giving him a chance to become something other than what he was. I couldn't do it. I was too busy protecting him to save him. You did what I couldn't. Isaac considered this. You did what you thought was love. You just confused love with protection. They're not the same thing. I know that now. They hung up, and Isaac went about his day, reviewing foundation proposals, meeting with shelter staff, planning new programs. His life had found a rhythm, a purpose beyond the violence that had defined so much of his past. That evening, he met Evelyn for their weekly dinner at Jake's Famous Crawfish. She was radiant, excited about her upcoming dissertation defense, talking about job offers from research institutions across the country. I'm thinking about Stanford, she said. Good neuroscience program, beautiful campus. That's in California, Isaac noted. I know, but I can't let fear dictate my choices. Theodore's in Seattle. He's building a new life. I should do the same. Isaac smiled. You're right. And California's only 2 hours by flight. I can visit. You better. Someone needs to keep me fed. As they talked and laughed, Isaac reflected on the journey from that terrible night to this moment of peace. The path had been dark and violent, had required him to become the weapon he'd once been. to cross lines most people never approached. But it had worked. Theodore was changing, or at least tried to change. Evelyn was thriving. The foundation had helped hundreds of women escape dangerous situations. Justice hadn't come from the system alone. It had required intervention, pressure, the kind of asymmetric warfare Isaac had learned in the teams. He didn't regret it. He'd do it all again. Because in the end, protection wasn't about money or lawyers or settlements. It was about standing between the people you loved and the darkness that threatened them. It was about using every skill, every resource, every ounce of will to ensure they survived and thrived. Isaac Garner had been a lot of things: a SEAL, a warrior, a ghost in the night. But his most important role was the simplest: father. And he fulfilled that role the only way he knew how, with absolute, uncompromising dedication. The check arrived. Isaac paid, as always, and they walked out into the Portland evening, father and daughter, survivors both, ready for whatever came next. Because the nightmares were fading, the scars were healing, and the future, for the first time in a long time, looked bright.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.